Hello everyone and welcome back to Uncommon Sense. A very warm welcome to those of you tuning in for the very first time. Our program is a show about life. We learn about the wisdom, experience, and fun and wonderful things our guests have done in their lives, and we hope to be inspired by them. With me today is a doctor and an author, Khaled Hasseini. He's in Midland because of a wonderful invitation from the Matrix Midland Festival. So welcome. I would like to say one word about him in case you are not familiar with him. His is an immigrant story. He came here as a young child. His parents were diplomats in Paris for the Afghanistan, I guess, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And at the time of the communist takeover, it was unsafe, of course. They had no future. And so they asked for, her father asked for political asylum here because there was more opportunity in the United States than, say, Europe, he thought. And so they came. No easy thing to do, no easy thing to do. He came with 4 siblings, 2 parents, and a grandparent. And as he said, that he had absolutely 2 choices to be, either an engineer or a physician. And so with pluck and a great deal of study, he became a physician, which he is now. And he is on leave of absence for 1 year from Kaiser. And he has written a wonderful book called The Kite Runner, which all of us have read, and if you haven't, please go do that. In any case, there was much interest in and talk about a second novel, and I understand you are working on one. And I heard you say that your approach to writing is to do the sketch outline first, and then in later drafts, say the 3rd or 4th, you would fill in the layering. Mm-hmm. Tell us how that works.
Well, I generally write a first draft from beginning to end, and then I use that as a skeleton frame on which I add all the layer and the shading and the coloring and the themes and so on. Kind of like taking a skeleton and then adding muscle and nerve and skin, kind of to give a medical analogy.
Right.
So for instance, in The Kite Runner, I had a first draft, and at the end of which I felt the major characters weren't yet fully developed. Mm-hmm. And when I rewrote it, that's when I made the connections between the characters and what were the real relationships. And that was when the characters' relationships evolved, particularly, for instance, between Amir and his father. Mm-hmm. And it really, the thawing out that happens between them, the connection that they end up making, and the friendship that develops between the son and the father really didn't come through until the second draft. And then I actually often write a 3rd draft in which I pay attention to themes and things like symbols and that kind of thing, which emerge throughout the writing process, and I try to highlight those. So I'm not close to being done when I've done a first draft. The best, I feel like I do my best work in the 2nd and the 3rd draft.
Are you one that writes 10 times the amount and then edits down, or has it edited down?
Well, I tend to somehow fall into the formula that Stephen King, he's written a wonderful little short book called On Writing, and in it he says that final draft equals first draft minus 10%. Right. So I find that I tend to overwrite with the first draft, and I end up having a kind of a trash file where I will, thankfully these days with the computer it's so easy to do.
I know.
But I will take entire sections and I put them in that trash file and just save them, and they may come in handy later. But typically my second draft is definitely shorter than my first draft. So I tend to overwrite, not a whole lot, but a little bit, yeah.